It's considered a rare feat for animals to escape from zoos, but occasionally there are courageous creatures that find themselves on the other side of their enclosures. And when that happens, the stories surrounding the escapes can be wild, hilarious, and downright daring. In honor of all those animals on the loose, in this video, we are counting down the top 10 wild animals that escaped from the zoo. Number 10. Keepers at the Vancouver Zoo Parrot Gardens had thought they'd covered all their bases to prevent their birds from escaping by clipping their wings. But that didn't stop one crafty animal from making a break for it. In 2009, a macaw named Shuva somehow managed to sneak out of her enclosure and flutter undetected over a wall and out into the parking lot. For 3 days, zoo staff puzzled over where Shuva could be hiding out, imagining that she couldn't have gotten too far. They were wrong. The bird's adventure finally came to an end after a family discovered her hiding out in their RV's engine cabinet nearly 20 miles from where she had escaped. Number 9. Capuchin monkeys in the wild have been observed using stones as tools to make their lives a little easier, like in cracking open stubbornly hard nuts. But a group of monkeys held captive at a zoo in Brazil discovered that rocks are handy in other situations as well. Staff at the facility were surprised and no doubt a bit impressed to find the 8 capuchins under their care had all escaped the enclosure. They used stones to smash the lock, keeping them in before disappearing into the jungle beyond. Only 4 of the monkeys were recaptured. So do you like going to the zoo? Or perhaps you even know a story of an animal who escaped from your local zoo? Share with us in the comments below. And before we continue, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like these. Number 8. Officials at the Tropicaria Zoo in Somerset, England, thought that their raccoon was happy enough with life, showing no particular desire to run away. But it turned out not to be the case. After a few days of heavy rains and flooding in the area, one of the captive raccoons, a female named Missy, seized upon the opportunity to take a break for freedom. The clever creature was able to dig a hole big enough in the softened soil to slip through while no one was watching, escaping into the night. Her life on the lam, however, was short-lived. Missy was discovered 5 weeks later, hiding out in an unused building not far from her enclosure. Number 7. The artificial penguin pools at the Tokyo Sea Life Park weren't quite convincing enough to keep one black and white waddler from wanting a bit more room to roam. A 13-foot wall and barbed wire fence weren't enough to keep one Humboldt penguin, dubbed Penguin 337, from breaking free of its enclosure to take up residence in Tokyo Bay in 2012. For months, the 1-year-old bird eluded capture as keepers struggled to track it down. The aquarium staff was worried that the penguin, raised in captivity, could not handle life on the outside. But by the time they were finally able to catch the feathered fugitive, it was clear that it could take care of itself just fine. It didn't look like it had gotten thinner over the past 2 months or been without food, said the aquarium's deputy director at the time. It doesn't seem to be any weaker, so it looks as if it's been living quite happily in the middle of Tokyo Bay. Number 6. Staff at the Nandankanan Zoo in India hadn't been planning on adding any more animals to their big cat exhibit. But when a young wild tiger wandered out of the jungle and onto the grounds of the facility, looking for a bit of romance with their captive tigress, they didn't hesitate to invite him in. Over the next few weeks, the tiger seemed to settle in quite nicely, enjoying days of free food and naps in the shade. About a month after wandering into the zoo, the wild tiger decided that captive life just wasn't for him. Keepers coming to check on their new arrival one day discovered that the animal had somehow managed to loose himself, scaling a 20-foot security wall to return back into the forest from where he came. A camera within the enclosure was there to record the remarkable incident, but the cat evidently severed its wiring before making a break for it. Number 5. In Kansas, the Sedgwick County Zoo had been planning on keeping an African flamingo on display at their facility, but the bird had other plans. In 2005, having already spent 3 years of its life under the lock, the flamingo seized upon a rare opportunity to fly away. It disappeared from sight before keepers could do anything to stop it. For 8 years, no one had any idea what had become of the fugitive flamingo, so far away from the continent where its particular species could be found. But it turns out, the bird is making the most of things. A bird watcher on the Gulf Coast of Texas spotted the African flamingo 650 miles from where it had escaped. He confirmed its origins from a band the zoo had put on its leg, But what's interesting is that it wasn't alone. The exotic Old World bird had apparently found a New World flamingo to be its companion. When the bird keeper, Scott Newland, heard the news that everything was well with the animal that slipped away so many years earlier, he was impressed. Number 4. When fishermen in South Korea found that they had accidentally snared a dolphin in their nets back in 2009, instead of doing the right thing and letting it go, they decided to cash in on their catch, illegally selling the animal to a local aquarium. For the next 4 years, the 10-year-old female dolphin, named Sampal, was forced to perform tricks in a dolphin show there, kept in a small pool that bore no resemblance to the open ocean where she had lived among her pod. Eventually, word got out about Sampal's wild origins and the unlawful transaction that landed her in captivity. Soon a campaign was mounted to have her turned loose. Sampal's case was then taken on by the Korean High Court, which ordered her to be set free. Number 3. A red panda named Rusty became a social media darling after escaping his exhibit at the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. This led to the red panda hunt through the streets of the nation's capital, alerting the public to keep an eye out for the animal via Facebook and Twitter. Although it only took about an hour for the daring escape artist to be recaptured, zoo officials could never quite figure out how he got free in the first place. Number 2. Sometimes escaping captivity takes a team effort, as in the case of one kangaroo in Germany who escaped a wildlife park with the help of interspecies collaboration. Officials at the park say the animal was able to break free by slipping through holes in 2 separate barricades that kept it in. Evidently, a fox had dug a passageway underneath the kangaroo's enclosure fence large enough for it to squeeze through, but that only got the animal so far. Fortunately, a boar had done the same, creating a crucial hole beneath the park's main exterior wall, also big enough for the freedom-loving kangaroo to find a way through. Number 1. No discussion of impressive zoo escapes would be complete without mentioning the most famous animal escape artist in history. In the 1980s, a Bornean orangutan named Ken Allen, held captive at the San Diego Zoo, became known worldwide for his repeated breakouts in enclosures thought to be impossible to outsmart. In the summer of 1985, the clever primate somehow managed to set himself free on 3 separate occasions, taking the opportunity to stroll peacefully around the zoo. Ken was so smart that he even demonstrated to other orangutans how to get out using a tree branch as a crowbar to pop open the gates to their enclosures. Thanks for watching. What do you think of these animal escape stories? Which one did you like the most? Let us know in the comments. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.